An explosion and gunfire could be heard coming from the Turkish aerospace industry's headquarters near the capital city of Ankara Wednesday, killing at least 4 people and wounding more than a dozen others, in what Turkey's interior minister called a terrorist attack.
Biri erkek olmak üzere
2 terrorists, one of which was a woman and one of which was a man, were neutralized.
maalesef
Unfortunately, dear friends, we have 4 martyrs. We have 14 wounded. 3 of the wounded are in critical condition.
CCTV video, confirmed by Reuters, showed armed attackers approaching the Turkish State Aviation Company building. The cause of the blast remains unclear. A state-run news agency said prosecutors have launched an investigation. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan, alongside Russia's Vladimir Putin at a BRICS conference in the Russian city of Kazan, condemned the attack and accepted Putin's condolences. NATO, the United States, and the European Union also condemned the attack. Turkish Aerospace Industries is the country's largest aerospace manufacturer, owned by the Turkish Armed Forces Foundation and government. It employs more than 10,000 people.
Donald Trump's campaign accused British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour Party of blatant foreign interference in the U.S. presidential election in favor of his rival Kamala Harris. The complaint cited a now-deleted LinkedIn post from the Labour Party's head of operations, who wrote that nearly 100 current and former staff would travel to the U.S. to campaign for Harris. Trump's team filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission calling for an investigation into what it termed, apparently, illegal contributions from the Labour Party to the Harris campaign. British political activists have long traveled to the U.S. ahead of elections, which is allowed under U.S. rules. What isn't allowed is for these volunteers to make financial contributions. The allegations of interference in this case will hinge on whether the Labour Party covered any activists' costs. Starmer said that didn't happen, and Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner gave a similar answer when asked about this in Parliament.
Will the Deputy Prime Minister join me in applauding the brave Labour staff members who've travelled across the Atlantic to campaign against Donald Trump?
People in their own time often go and campaign, and that's what we've seen. It happens in all political parties. People go and campaign, and they do what they want to do in their own time with their own money.
While the complaint could complicate U.S.-UK relations if Trump wins the election, Starmer has denied it would have any
The United
impact.
States on Wednesday said it had seen evidence that soldiers from North Korea were now in Russia. That comes amid warnings that Pyongyang may be sending troops to assist Moscow with its war in Ukraine. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, speaking in Rome, said he'd seen evidence of the mobilization, but did not yet know its objective.
What exactly they're doing, left to be seen. These are things that we need to sort out. We'll have more for you on that later. But yeah, as we continue to look at this, there is evidence that there are DPRK troops, in Russia.
South Korean lawmakers on Wednesday said they'd learned the North had dispatched 3,000 troops to Russia to support the war in Ukraine.
현재 추가적으로 1,500여 명이 더.
The lawmakers told journalists Pyongyang had promised to provide Moscow a total of around 10,000 troops,
총 북한군 규모는 약 3,000.
and their deployment was expected to be completed by December. Both Moscow and Pyongyang have denied reports about North Korean soldiers heading to the battlefield. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky this week called on allies to respond to evidence of North Korea's involvement in Russia's war.
If they would be sending troops to Ukraine, that would mark a significant escalation.
NATO chief Mark Rutte on Tuesday said Pyongyang's involvement would be a, quote, significant escalation. UK Defense Secretary John Healey told Parliament on Tuesday he'd seen evidence North Korean soldiers may soon be on Ukrainian battlefields.
North Korean soldiers supporting Russia's war of aggression on European soil. It is as shocking as it is desperate.
One analyst told Reuters that using North Korean soldiers would provide Moscow with desperately needed troops and Pyongyang with better training for their
Israeli
armed forces.
airstrikes pound Tyre, a historic Lebanese port city. Israel began to bomb roughly 3 hours after issuing an order online for residents to flee central areas of the UNESCO-listed city. Tens of thousands of people have fled Tyre in recent weeks. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken was in the Middle East on Wednesday to push for a halt in fighting between Israel and militant groups Hamas and Hezbollah. But there was no respite for Tyre. usually a bustling hub for Lebanon's south, with fishermen, tourists, and even UN peacekeepers on a break from deployments near the border, spending time there by the sea. And no let-up either for besieged northern Gaza, which Palestinians were fleeing en masse on Wednesday. Health authorities reported at least 20 people killed in fresh Israeli strikes. Khulud Abu Nada was among the many displaced with nowhere to go yet again.
It has been 18 days. They have implemented a siege on the north. It was like they put us in a prison. We could not leave.
We cannot take it anymore. We are being exterminated in Gaza and no one standing beside us.
In Lebanon, Israel's military said it had killed 3 Hezbollah commanders and some 70 fighters in the south in the past 48 hours, a day after confirming it had killed Hashim Safi ad-Din, the militant group's heir apparent leader.
Since October 7th a year ago,
Blinken, in Tel Aviv before departing for Riyadh, said it was time for Israel to capitalize on its military victories. It's the last major US peace push before the November 5th presidential election, which could upend US policy in the region.
now is the time to turn those successes into an enduring strategic success. And there are really 2 things left to do. Get the hostages home and bring the war to an end with an understanding of what will follow.
This was Blinken's first Middle East trip since Israel killed Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, a death Washington hoped could provide an impetus for peace. But Gaza residents say that since Sinwar's death, Israel has only intensified its assault on northern areas.